So today we're sharpening Takeda knives. I've shown you how to sharpen specific knives like Fujiwara or Masakage. Today I'm going to show you how to sharpen Takeda knives. Takeda knives are very, very unique in the way he forges as well as he sharpens. Specifically, he forges knife so thin. I don't know if you've owned one, but look how thin his knives are at the spine. Also, what is so unique is that his bevel is so narrow in comparison to a lot of knives we have. Here's the reason. He forges the knife into very, very thin piece of steel. So if he wants to sharpen in a way that everyone else does, it makes the edge way too much fragile. So instead of beveling it, he forges into very thin piece of steel, then sharpen just last bevel. Also, another really unique feature of his knives is that he does not have two bevels like many knife makers do. By meaning, you see the bevel here, that's the only bevel this knife has. Instead of sharpening a primary bevel and secondary bevel like many other knife makers, what we are going to do is just sharpen this one primary bevel. It's actually pretty easy to sharpen Takeda knives if you just follow his lead, I guess. It's easier because you're not really guessing what angle you're sharpening at. You just follow this angle that he sets when he was making knives. First, I'm going to use a Knifewear 220 grit. This knife has a little bit of rust on. I want to set the bevel really nicely with coarse grit, so I'm going to use Knifewear 220. Then I'm going to even the bevel out. So I actually chose this Hibiki 1000 stone. It's from Naniwa, but it's really, really hard. So it makes the bevel really nice and even. You could still use the Knifewear 1000 stone, or if you want to do something very similar to what I'm doing, you could use very hard stone like Naniwa Professional Chosera stone. But any 1000 should work when it comes to just the sharpening. I chose this one just because I want to make the bevel nice and even. So I chose Naniwa Superstone 3000 to polish and get a nice kasumi, which is basically really nice contrast between the coarse steel and the cladding steel. Last but not least, obviously, I have this stone specifically from Takeda-san. This one here is called Shobu Nagura. When we have Takeda knives, we try to keep them in stock. These are really nice. These are the stones that he used to finish his knives as well. And don't worry, if you don't have it, you can definitely finish at 3000 grit as well. So this specific knife was sent to us by our regular viewer, Damon Spector. One of the cooks used his knife and left it in counter wet, so there is a little bit of a rust spots here and there. Don't worry, we're gonna clean it right up. And also I just wrapped the handle, protect from, I guess, further damaging. First off, I'm going to use Knifewear 220 stone here. Again, as I said, finding an angle is gonna be so easy. All you have to do is put bevel flat on those stones and just push against this bevel here. And if you're unsure, you can rock back and forth a little bit and see if there's a spot that actually stops. So basically what I'm going to do, you could do it from the tip, heel, wherever, but just set the angle, do back and forth until you actually are raising a burr on this side. Key really is to, I guess, check frequently and see if you are sharpening just the bevel. So if you see the spot like this where only the top part of the bevel is touched, adjust the angle slightly so that the whole bevel is touched and sharpened. If you know how actually Takeda-san sharpens, He does it slightly different or slightly opposite in that way. He actually has a piece of wood and rests the knife on a piece of wood and have a handheld stone do the bevel.
No need to think about the angles. Back and forth and back and forth.
Basically, I'm doing the same thing, except I'm just doing an opposite. Like any sharpenings where your fingers or right fingers or where your pressure fingers is, that's where you're sharpening. So I try to focus and slide my finger along the bevel here. You don't have to put a lot of pressure. You don't want to impede the sliding action. Like, if you put too much pressure, it just like doesn't move. So just enough pressure so that it just stays on the stone really nicely, but it glides or slides very nicely too. Alrighty, so I finished this side. It's nice and even. There's a nice burr forming on the other side as well. That's when you want to stop. You want to raise the burr. You want to make sure this whole bevel is ground nice and even. I like to switch my hand like this. If you're not comfortable, you can certainly do this way as well. It doesn't matter. Again, find the angle just by pressing it down on the bevel down and lock with your wrist, then just go back and forth. Your pressure finger, at this point, I'm pressing it down with my right fingers. That's where you are sharpening. So basically, same thing. I just sharpened this bevel until I raised the burr, as well as there's no rough spot. Nice and even, that's what you want. He very intentionally sharpens the way he does. Very narrow bevel, and also there's no koba or the micro bevel, only one primary bevel. If you don't like the way Takeda-san sharpens, you could modify it by putting the pressure on this bevel right here and raise the bevel up a little bit. I wouldn't recommend it because he forges in the way that this particular way of sharpening is the best for his knives. So let's move on to the little bit higher grit. I just started from 220 grit stone, so I'm gonna move up to 1000. This one here, as I said, Hibiki 1000 stone, vitrified, very nice and hard steel. As much as I think and as much as I like to make the bevel nice and flat with 220 grit here, because of its relative softness, there may be some of the spots that's high and low. So I'm gonna make sure that there's no high and lows. This step is not necessary when it comes to the sharpness, but I like to do it because it makes it easier to sharpen afterwards as well. Basically the same thing, find the angle. Takeda knives, again, are easy to sharpen. Much easier than the other knives that you have to thin the bevel and sharpen the secondary bevel. These are just sharpen one angle. Just follow what he's created for you. It's like a training wheel for riding a bicycle. Also, what this 1000 grit, you still want to raise a very small burr. How he sharpens, there shouldn't be any low spots because he hand sharpens everything and he makes sure there's no low spots when he finishes it. But if you ever have the low spots, try on a 220 stone, make sure there's no low spots. Well, this polishing process is taking longer. Look how little steel is coming off from this stone here. Because Alumi Super has such high wear resistance, sometimes it's harder to sharpen. The burr here, already just gonna switch the hand. So the technique on the other side is basically the same as 220 stone. Find the bevel, lock it, and put pressure with my 2 fingers or 3 or 4 I wouldn't probably do 4. I guess 2 fingers. Do back and forth. Check occasionally to see if you're on the right track. I mean, the polish is nice and even. Okay. Burr is raised. So I raised the burr all along the edge here. The bevel is nice and even. It's polished up really nicely compared to 220 grit. You can probably see how the light reflects. This is the second step. Now I'm going to final step almost. It's pretty easy. I grab this Naniwa Super 3000 grit. If you don't have the Super Stone, this process I'm going to make, my aim is to make the edge nice and shiny, as well as the cladding steel a little bit cloudier. You don't really have to follow this step. You could use any of the finishing stones like 4000, 3000, 5000, whatever you have at home. I like this Super Stone 3000 because it's nice and soft. It polishes up very nicely. So if you're looking for something soft stone, then that's very similar finish. We have the Arashiyama 6000 stone that does very similar. It's nice and soft and gives you really nice shine to it. So when I'm doing this, I don't put a lot of pressure. Make sure the you don't want the knife to leave the stone. Just make sure it stays on the stone, but really nice light pressure back and forth. I don't know if you can see the difference. You can probably come closer. See, it's nice and shiny. Around 3000 grit. Feeling the burr, it's kind of hard. It's almost visual. Visual is very strong. Make sure the bevel is nice and polished, and this polish edge goes all the way to the edge, or the reach to the edge. Sometimes you see the very, very fine line left along the edge. That's like leftover polish or leftover scratch from the 1000. So make sure that's all gone. One of the tricks is that I use both of my hands, do this. So put my thumb on top and try to move it this way, and do the same. And when there's a tiniest burr, it hooks, or this side of the hand will feel the grab more. This will grab so much more than when I do this. And if you can feel the burr at this way, just make sure the edge is polished till the very, very end. Okay, I'm just gonna do the polish on the back side. Very light, back and forth. At this point, it's pretty much done. You can use something like this, Takeda-san's Shobudani Negura stone, or if you don't have any, you could use, if you have some natural stones, you can use Ohira Suita, or you can use any of the Suita that's a little bit softer. Shobudani is pretty good. It's pretty soft as well. So those stones would work. If it's too hard, it may not leave a really nice mild finish, but you could still finish that as well. But if you don't have any natural stones, this probably will be your final polishing stone here. What I'm going to do is, before going to the natural stone, I'm going to finish this knife. So I have the leather strap. The burr is this side, so I'm just gonna polish that. So yeah, for most people, this is the end of it. Just finish up 3000, then take the burr off with maybe leather strap. What I'm going to do is, at the last minute or the last polish, I'll use this stone from Takeda-san. This is the natural stone from this mine called Shobudani in Kyoto. And this is really nice and soft. And how he does is basically exactly the same as I will show you. He basically puts the knife flat on he uses a piece of wood. I just gonna improvise it with this right here. You don't have to clamp it or anything like that. All you have to do is just sharpen the bevel, almost like use it like you're using the eraser, I guess, and try to erase this bevel. And that's actually what Takeda-san suggests. basically he suggests to use Sharpie to cover the whole blade or the whole bevel, then use handheld stone to almost again like using an eraser, do this. So I just do gently. Be careful. The knife is sharp, as you probably saw. Goal is to get really. So what I'm doing, I'm gonna do it until I get a very nice, consistent, even look. So the natural stones are made with the, well, obviously natural materials. They are not made with the synthetic materials and not even, not made with like all even shapes or sizes of grits, right? So when you polish the bevel or the edge with natural stones, what happens is that the this almost like a mirror polish part will get slightly duller, like in color, or the it's not as so. Hopefully this shows. This is the polish, with synthetic stone, and this is natural stone side. I can see it little, but it's not as like merely shiny. Like it's not like glaringly shiny as the other side. Yeah, it softens the extreme like mirror polish, and also it makes the scratches even milder as well, because it consists of a lot of different smaller grits and it breaks it down. You know, you can definitely grab one of those to finish your Takeda, and it's cool and it's really authentic. You don't have to. You can finish with your synthetic stone, that's for sure. So we like to do it because we get an opportunity to have a hands on these natural stones, and you know, why not, right? And testing out with the paper here. It's nice and, oh yeah, nice and sharp. Just make sure there's no burr. That is how him, sharpen Takeda knives. If you have any questions or comments, or want to learn how to sharpen a specific knife lines or makers, leave the comment below. Or if you want to learn more about the sharpening techniques, check out our playlist. Thanks for watching. You can't hold its game, just possibilities and ladies. So tell me la in a rise array.
Can you give me some more of the growling?